Hey everybody. So, kind of on the theme of a video I made recently about permaculture design and AI, I'm going to go a little more into this kind of world that of tech stuff and how we relate to digital media and all that, because it's just such a huge part of what's shaping our world in somewhat rough directions right now. And because I have a background in it, right? As I've mentioned before, I've done sort of by accident. It's a long story. I had gotten in the past into like digital media kind of work, and working with websites and email and all that. So I have a little bit of experience around this, and so just to share. Okay, so I'm trying to run a small permaculture business, right? And thank you to everybody who has supported this in any way. It's like almost kind of working, which is amazing for this work. Yeah, don't go into permaculture design to get rich, but yeah. So like, and I have to make these choices every day about how do I get my business out there and how do people find out about it? Because if somebody actually wants to learn this stuff, I want them to find out that I'm offering workshops, that I'm offering, site visits, that I'm doing design work. I want them to know, right? And so that's kind of the like friendly side of like marketing, right? Is like, okay, well, you actually have something that would help people. People are looking for that thing. Let's make sure they find that thing, right? But then past that simple beginning to it, there's a whole lot of other branching choices you could make around how you put yourself out there in the world. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I do things a little differently, um, with pros and cons to it. And I also do it in relationship to permaculture, right? In that, like, I'm trying my best, imperfectly to embody the permaculture teachings, in each layer of my business, right? And so how does marketing connect to any of that? Well, let's think about it for a second, okay? So, you know, if we think about the health of a waterway, right? We think about the health of a stream or a creek or a river, and we think about people farming near it, near the edges, which is often a great place to have a farm, right? And we think about the runoff of the fertilizer or of manure or of just erosion if there's tilling going on. We think about all those particles and excess nitrogen and phosphorus and all that stuff kind of flowing into the waterway, right? Now, if one person, like one small farm, is doing that, the waterway's got resilience. It'll recover just fine, right? But if everybody's doing that, at scale, the waterway is suffering greatly, and therefore all life is suffering greatly, and we are part of all life, so we're suffering greatly, and we end up with tragic things like the dead zones in the water where these rivers let out, or really awful stuff, right? So permaculture has been designed from the very beginning to look at that stuff and say, let's take responsibility for where our energy flows come from, whether it's fertility or water or materials, and where they go, whether it's into a landfill, back composted into the earth, into a river, right? So, again, how does this connect to marketing, right? So, one of the choices I have to make as somebody who's promoting my business because I want to survive and I want to do this work, and I want you to know about me, is I have to decide what platforms to use, what corporate websites to use, right? What corporate tools. And I have to decide what tactics to use, like what approaches to marketing to use, right? So I've got a website right now, and hopefully most of you have seen it, and I've got emails, and I guess sometimes I'm on YouTube. Here it is, right? Um, Email is one of those interesting places, though, right? Where like you sign up, say you go to my website and you say, yes, I'd like to receive your emails, right? And there's a bit of trust there that I'm going to like give you something useful and not spam you. And I say I'm not going to spam you, and that's true. I hope you all agree. But then there's this interesting choice with email now they call marketing automation, right? This is the industry term for it. At least it was a few years ago. Maybe they've changed it. I don't know. I haven't been in that work for a while. So marketing automation is that thing that most of you are like, kind of the victims of at some level, where like you sign up, say for, you buy something on a website of somebody's making something really sweet, some homemade candles or something, and you like it. And then you get this email that says, thank you for signing up for this. And then a week later you get this, oh my gosh, you need to know about our candles. And then 2 weeks later, hey, are you sure you don't want our candles? And blah, 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 right? And it can get really intense, as some people might have noticed. Like, I won't call out anybody in this. And I also want to say, like, part of why I'm not calling out anybody too is I respect where people are coming from. We all have to like find a way to survive in the crazy times. And I'm not like better than you because I'm not doing this thing. I'm just experimenting with what it's like to not do it. I'm trying to hold my integrity. So like no blame. But there's a very big permaculture related, teacher who yeah, again, I don't want to hurt anybody, like who seems to have a marketing automation approach where you get something like every single day. Like you get a super intense headline as if they were like running up to you and like grabbing you by the shoulders and be like, "Oh my God, Matt, this is the thing you most need to know. I can't believe you're here. I'm so glad you're here. I have to tell you, this is like an emergency. This is like going to change your life. This is like God has come down to like kiss you on the forehead, and also someone's about to steal all your money." And like that's what these headlines are kind of like when they're not just like that once in like 2 years or something, like which might be an emergency, you know? They're like that every day. And they're not just like that to to me every day. They're like that to thousands and thousands of people every day. And they don't really seem to care very much whether I'm opening these emails or not, or whether I'm like enjoying what's being sent. They just keep sending it, right? And so that's a strategy of marketing that's trying to wear me down and make it so my like kind of ability to make decisions gets a little like oh maybe okay, like I said I kind of didn't want to pay for this course. It's really expensive. But wow, these headlines are almost making me feel kind of guilty for not paying for it, or like I'm crazy for not paying for it because this is all anybody's talking about, clearly, because it's like in my inbox and it's saying the most amazing, inspirational, crazy things about how this will change my life and all these testimonials and blah blah blah, and like piling it on thick, where I start to question like, wow, who am I to like not spend the money I don't have to sign up for this workshop? Maybe I should like take it out a loan out just to pay for it, right? And I've seen this in more than one instance with permaculture or permaculture related work, where like I'll sign up for a website's emails hoping to learn something, and then I'll get these emails like, wait a minute, like you don't know about swales? And then the next email is like, oh my God, 3 days later, right? Just right on time, automated, again, scheduled, right? The people aren't actually sending these emails out like write you a letter, hit send like I do. They're actually scheduling it so that the first time you interact with the website, you go through, there's this whole algorithmic flow set up. You know, it's like if you're in category A, send email series A. And then if you respond to this one, go over here. And this can get really complex, and it is for big corporations, right? I've done this for a nonprofit, which is how I know. So these things will talk to you with more and more intensity to try to basically, let's be honest, to try to pressure you into a decision. Because like if this decision was aligned with your heart, maybe you see it once in the beginning, the first email, and you're like, yes, I want to do it. And then maybe you forget about it for 2 months, and then there's another email in 2 months, and you're like, that's right, that was the thing I was going to do. And then that's alignment with your heart, and you go for it, and it's great. It usually turns out well, right? But this pressure thing is something else. So I want to bring this back to the water a little bit, the water analogy, in that like, I had a dear permaculture teacher, Dan Palmer, who like said that the most important gift we have to give to ecosystems and to life is the human attention, right? This is the thing that makes the plants grow from us. Plants need sun and water and soil and time and minerals, right? They need what they need. From us, what they most need is our attention. That's what ecosystems most need. I mean, in a way, permaculture design is bringing the gift of our open attention to the ecosystems in order to help something really beautiful happen in a relationship between us and the ecosystem, right? So, what happens when our attention is just being bombarded by notifications and emails and updates and social media posts, right? And like, what happens when they have this marketing side to them where they're actually trying to push in a little bit? Like, they're not just like, here's a cool photo of a mushroom. They're a little bit like, you have to see this photo of a mushroom, or you'll literally be the worst human who ever lived, and you'll die. Or if you look at this photo of a mushroom, like you're gonna find the partner of a lifetime, or the partners of a lifetime. You're just gonna be like rolling in partners who love you because you looked at this picture of a mushroom, right? That's the tone and energy. And again, not to cast shade on anybody, although I love shade, but like not to blame anybody, because this is like kind of what the hustle we've been taught to survive. And I feel it. Like maybe I'd be a little more comfortable with my business if I was aggressively marketing in terms of money. But I wouldn't be more comfortable in terms of integrity, because like every single person that's mailing this, I want to be able to look in the eye, and I don't want to be like, oh yeah, like they're like, oh yeah, you're that person who's been like sending me these really intense emails, like once a day, and I would be like, wait, I didn't even send them. I actually just set that up like months ago to kind of just bug you, and forgot about it. I actually forgot that I set up this thing that's gonna kind of harass you digitally for the next like 5 years of your life, right? While tracking you and making automated choices about you based on things that you've shared that you might not have known were going to be used to make choices about you, right? Like, let's be real about this. So, water is important, attention is important, right? And a lot of people have, understandably just abandoned email altogether because of these aggressive practices. But I would call on anybody who cares about like what we call permaculture, what we call sustainability, to really consider their approaches with any of this and think like, are you putting like garbage in the water that you swim in? Like, are you, even if the message that you carry is really awesome and the work you're doing is beautiful, and a lot of people's are, and it's like really virtuous. Like, you're not just selling some garbage that's going to end up in a landfill. You're selling, how to learn to work with the earth, right? Like, being really honest, like, because that's kind of what this work involves, weirdly, when you get into a business. Like, well, even if you're doing that, like, the way that you're doing it is kind of like intensely pushy and draining to people's willpower and attention as they have to sort through all this noise, right? And what happens if, like, chances are, if you're into this stuff, like, you're going to be into like 20 different people teaching it. Like, how many different herbalists do I respect and want to learn from? And how many different permaculture teachers I respect and want to learn from? It's a lot, right? So if they all do marketing automation, I am drowning in communications. Like, I would have to put on my big mud boots and like wade through my inbox. I might just not use email, which means they've all lost that chance to talk to me in a calm way to tell me something useful, like, hey, about my permaculture workshops, right? On the other hand, too, like, if half the permaculture people do that, or half of us do that, then the other half, like me, don't, then, maybe my little message is going to be drowned out in the persistence of these intense marketing machines, right? But I don't want to be a marketing machine, so I'm willing to take that risk. I'm not like bragging about it. I'm just, it's kind of like how I want to be in integrity with myself at the end of the day. But I do want to name it because each of us might have some choice about this. Like, we might have a choice. We might have the opportunity to tell somebody we respect, hey, could you not do that? I don't like it. If you don't like it. And chances are you don't like it. Like, I don't know. Does anybody really like getting like emails every single day, or automated series of emails? Like, maybe if you sign up for it, I've seen some things where you sign up for, like, sign up for send me a garden tip every month or something. Okay, that could be cool, and it makes sense to automate that so someone's not there, each person on the list, like, manually doing that, right? But that's not what I get in my inbox. I get these things that feel just aggressive and coercive, and like they're trying to get something from me, or push me, or confuse me. And I want to call on all of us in the community to really consider twice before we do that, right? And the same thing applies to social media. And I'm not going to bring that all up right now, but I'm like, you might have noticed I'm not really on social media, right? Which is a huge risk when you're trying to start a small business. And like, it's just about that water again. Like, I don't think I need to go into it too much for folks watching this, because it's sort of become mainstream knowledge, but like, these social media platforms are doing some pretty harmful stuff to the human attention, to the human soul, right? Like, why are we thinking about protecting our children from them? Well, because we know they're bad for our children. But if they're bad for our children, are they actually good for us? And do I want my beautiful stories of regenerating land with people, or my clients' beautiful stories? Do I really want them to be something that gets you to spend more time engaging with the Meta Corporation, or TikTok Corporation, now owned by a billionaire who, I'm gonna say, doesn't really mean you well, or the Twitter Corporation? I won't call it the other thing. Same thing, right? Like, do I want to be part of that compelling storytelling? Because I'm a storyteller. Like, do I want to draw you to that more? So that when you're reading my thing about permaculture and you're done reading it, usually, and I know this because of my background, people don't usually actually click those links from social media very often. They tend to keep reading, right? So do I really want you to read about this thing, and then you're in there with the bots and the AI slop and the political controversy that's just meant to divide people over and over, and the doom scrolling, and then they're going to sell you something, and blah 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 blah. Like, I don't want to pull you to that, because this is the thing about permaculture that makes it, like, in one of the main things that makes it different from organic gardening or edible landscaping or the sustainability movement, or environmental movement, or you name it, is that we try to think in systems. We try to zoom out and look at the whole system and how all these things are connected ecologically, inputs and outputs, right? And so there's not actually a disconnection between anything unless we force there to be one, and there's not really a disconnection between um, your attention and your participation in reading emails and learning that way, and the way that you then walk into the world and interact with the ecosystems, and the decisions you make, and the things you buy, and the way you treat your family, and all that. Like, all these things are relational, right? And so permaculture is teaching us to try to reconnect, the wholeness, which life used to always feel like. Like, in earlier times, life might not have been perfect, and a lot of people had some crazy ideas that weren't great. What there was an integration and a wholeness of all things together to some degree, thinking about our indigenous ancestors and our other roots that we all share way back, right? Like life was one woven tapestry. It was a wholeness. There weren't these separate domains. And so, like, if you tell me, oh, well, marketing is just what you have to do, but I'm doing work that's about people returning to the earth, I'd say, like, well, if the work you're doing with marketing feels like it's pulling people away from the earth or confusing their attention so they're less able to notice, the coltsfoot flowers that just came up, or the maple flowers and the way that the frost just bit them, or the sound of a new bird they've never heard, right? Like, if their attention is fragmented from that, that's going to hurt their ability to participate in the ecosystem. And if the goal, what is our real goal that we're moving towards with this work, right? That's another part of systems thinking in a way. Is like, in this case, the goal or the attractor that I'm trying to move everything towards is for everybody, including myself, to keep taking small and big steps closer to the earth, closer to reunion with life, right? Closer to life's way instead of the machine's way, right? And so if I'm relying too heavily on automation and machines in order to get you to go to the earth, I'm at cross purposes. And the side goal of I want my family to survive and I want to make money is important, right? Like, that might do a little better, but it's at the expense of the huge goal, which is life, which is health, which is generational health, right? And I don't want to screw this up, because actually this family goal over here, that's based on, like, well, this part of it's about money, right? And me doing meaningful work, which makes me healthier. That connects into that too, right? And then my family's healthier and but like systems thinking, right? But like this big one, which is like, how well is Earth doing? How well are the people doing? How well are our spirits doing? How much are we there for each other? Do we have the attention to participate and hear each other and see each other and be with each other and ourselves? This is affecting this family one in a constant way that is bigger than this and can overwhelm this. And this going wrong and overwhelming this, I'd say that's what we call history, right? Like, history is the story of this big system thing is getting messed up, and all these little circles of families and people and individual places on earth are suffering from this. And permaculture definitely has the orientation to help and feed these little circles, like each little half an acre backyard, permaculture paradise, or like the big 20 acre, 50 acre, 100 acre places of land regeneration, or like just helping people feel closer to the earth and learn a little herbal medicine or feel more confident in the forest, like, and helping each family, each person do well, have healthy food. Like, these things do feed into this and they change this. And that's systems thinking too. The nodes of local coherence dramatically affect the disorganized central node. But if this central node is just if you're throwing garbage into the central node, in order to try to make this thing work better, you're kind of not really going to succeed, because this thing is connected to this thing. And this, you have to stop throwing garbage into this. And right now, a lot of people are throwing garbage into this. Not me, I'm pointing to my head. Like, I guess I am putting some garbage in my head with internet, but like, you know what I mean? The big pattern, like the big thing, which none of us can change by ourselves completely. And, it's got its own energy to it, but it matters, right? Because like zooming it in a little, it's like, it's my email inbox. And I'm pretty annoyed at one or two of the people that I would love to learn from and love to sit down with and like be humbled by all their knowledge and all the gifts they have to share. But I'm pretty darn annoyed by their marketing, because it's like nonstop, and I don't feel treated like a person. And I feel like the water of my attention is being dumped in order to achieve what? Rapid growth. Just like fertilizer is being dumped onto the land in order to achieve what? Rapid growth. More money by pouring fertilizer on that runs off into the river. More money by pouring emails and social media ads and blah, blah, blah that runs into the river. So I'll be really transparent just with all this too about kind of how I'm approaching getting my business out there right now. And this is not like a course in marketing or anything. Like, don't take advice from me. But this is my honest experiment right now. And I'll try to be honest if it changes. I'm not doing social media right now. I'm on YouTube a little bit, which you could call a kind of social media, but it's got a different quality to it. I am using email only when I write them by hand, sending them out usually about once a month. Same email to everybody as of right now, not like segmentation, sorting you by things you told me about yourself. I am, let's see, what else? I'm using Google Ads, right? Which is something where if somebody searches for permaculture workshop near me and they're near me, I really want to make sure they find me. And Google Ads are one way to make sure they find me. I'm not using the AI features of Google Ads, which is like, you pretty much have to gosh, you need to have boundaries to get Google to turn the AI features off, because they are just going to push you and push you and push you. And then they'll have people from, from other countries call you up like all day and tell you like, why aren't you using the AI features? And I'll be like, I'm not gonna use the AI features because I don't want to. And they're like, well, you're crazy not to use the AI features. I'm like, I'm not gonna use them. Do I have a choice? And they're like, well, you do have a choice, but I'm like, yeah. So like you pretty much have to be like, so I'm not using the AI features of Google Ads. I'm using the most simple version, not the version that follows you all around the internet, not the version that's going to show up as banner ad saying like, hey, didn't you almost get Matt's permaculture class? Did you forget? Did you just blank out? Did you pass out at your chair and you didn't know you really wanted to go to the workshop, but your mind just stopped working? Like I'm not doing that. Right? I know how to do that because I had to do it for a living because I had to make some money to be able to afford to buy land. And it was a crazy world of contradictions and another story. And I'm not doing that now because I'm doing a permaculture business and I care about your attention. And I really hope that if you like what I do, you spread the word. And I'm really cool with you if you're already on social media, like posting something I did, like I need the grassroots help for sure. you know um, I'd like more people to be at my workshops, so it's not like I'm just set and flush with cash and I don't need to do these things. Those things would probably help my business get more money, but it wouldn't help the goal of the business, the big goal, which is to spread permaculture and to make the earth more alive and to help people be more well and to do things that feel in integrity with myself as well. So here I am talking to you on a corporate owned platform using a corporate made technological device, surrounded by in a little office I built myself, mostly with leftover lumber, taken from pine trees, surrounded by herbal medicines that I made from the land I work with, and just living in the contradictions and with as much honesty and clarity as I can. So hope this made sense why this is so connected to permaculture. I feel like everything can be a teacher of this, and this is really at its root about wholeness and about respecting life and about understanding where things come from and where they go and having all that feel good from the beginning to the end.